Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I am here with the first of 4 book hauls that make up the Comeback Tour. It had been 2 years since I last visited and shopped in person at a bookstore. Because of everything that was taking place, I was doing my book shopping online. I really kept going out to a minimum. I was doing a lot of work where I work, but outside of that, if I was able to get my books online, then that was the route that I took. But I'm very happy to have been able to pay some visits to bookstores in person in the more recent months. I visited 3 of them, and this is going to be the first of the 3. And it just so happened that it was my first bookstore that I went to. It was actually the last one that I visited, but I only went there to pick up some books that I called dibs on in one of their Facebook call dibs on these for a discounted price. And that was Second Time Books in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And I'm going to be making this 2 parts because the first part is what I acquired in their $8 box sale, where you would get $8. It would only be $8 for any books that you were able to fit in a box that they provided you. The second part, which is going to be the next video, was everything that I got when I was in the store. But for myself, I picked up 7 books. I got a few books as gifts, but I'm going to just show you what I got for myself. And all of them except one are nonfiction. And I'm going to start off by showing you the only fiction book that I bought from the $8 box sale. And that is Curtain by Agatha Christie. This is actually something that I already read for a proposed discussion. We were going to discuss it as a group, but we are rearranging it so that I will discuss it just with Ari in a future video. But Curtain is the last book in the Hercule Poirot series, and it's also the last book that Agatha Christie published in her lifetime. It was actually written in the 40s. It wasn't actually the last one that she wrote, but she wanted to have a conclusion on the table for the series in case something were to happen. I am going to elaborate on my thoughts a little bit more in a future video, but overall I thought it was okay. Next book that I acquired is John Adams and the American Revolution by Catherine Drinker Bowen. And this is a biography on John Adams up until 1776, the start of the American Revolution. This was written in 1950, so I am really interested to hear about how John Adams was perceived 72 years ago, as far as historians were concerned, because Bowen had written other biographies, notably Yankee from Olympus, which has to do about Justice Holmes and his family. She also wrote about Tchaikovsky and Nadezhda von Meck, and she also wrote about Anton and Nicholas Rubinstein. So it is interesting to be able to go over biographies written from different periods of time and then be able to compare notes about how someone was perceived or even just writing style in general. The next book that I picked up is Young Mr. Roosevelt, FDR's Introduction to War, Politics, and Life by Stanley Weintraub. And this, like that covers the early years of John Adams, this book covers the early years of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And Stanley Weintraub is a pretty polished historian and biographer. The next one that I picked up also pertains to a U.S. president, and this is Jimmy Carter writing about himself. This came out in 1992, so I would imagine that this leads up to that point, but it concentrates on his earlier years. This is Turning Point. A candidate, a state, and a nation come of age. And I will be interested and inclined. I would like to read more about Jimmy Carter, and I know that Jimmy Carter has published quite a few books, not just in nonfiction, but in fiction as well. This here is a nonfiction account. One president that does not have as many biographies out there, but I was able to kind of beef up on during my comeback tour. I was able to find two within the realm. Was biographies pertaining to Warren G. Harding. He is one of our more vague presidents, one of our worst presidents. But I got The Harding Affair by James David Robinault with a foreword by John W. Dean. This is The Harding Affair, Love and Espionage During the Great War. And it paints the backdrop, the political backdrop, while also bringing about Harding's extramarital affairs. It does make mention to Carrie Phillips, but it will also visit the more familiar affair that he had with Nan Britton, which produced a child. The next one that I got is The Americanization of Benjamin Franklin by Gordon S. Wood. And this is what is being touted as a more honest account about Benjamin Franklin's role in the formation of the United States. And finally, in the $8 box sale, I got Rome 1960, The Olympics That Changed the World, by David Moranis. And I would be very inclined to learn more about the Olympics, because just the concept and the many instances, the execution, and what it has accomplished on a global level is just quite extraordinary. And 1960 was a turning point for so many different reasons. The way that it advertises in the flap is that the 1960 Olympics in Rome saw the first doping scandal, the first commercially televised summer games, the first athlete paid for wearing a certain brand of shoes. It was taking place within the heat of the Cold War, and East and West Germans actually competed together before the formation of the Berlin Wall. And this is also a major turning point as far as bringing attention to the equal rights pertaining to black athletes and female athletes. These are the 7 books that I got during the $8 box sale, and then I went inside and splurged. So be sure to keep an eye out for the next video where I talk about those books that I acquired when I was inside the store. See you next time. Keep reading.